There is a reason why 99% of people who read Stoic quotes never actually change their lives. They have the wisdom, but they don't have the laws. They treat Stoicism like a buffet, picking the parts that feel good and ignoring the parts that require blood, sweat, and discipline. The truth is, if you only follow half of these rules, you're just a person with a library of quotes who is still stressed, still reactive, and still losing. But if you follow the full 10, you become a fortress. You become the person in the room that everyone else looks to when the world starts burning. In this video, we aren't just looking at nice ideas. We are going to install the 10 unbreakable laws of Stoic mastery. From the morning ritual of an emperor to the psychological kill switch for anxiety. I've structured these in a specific sequence. We're starting with the foundational habits, but as we move toward rule number 10, we're going to uncover the final law, the one that binds all the others together. Most people quit at rule number 5, and that is exactly why they stay stuck. If you want to stop being a passenger in your own life and start being the one who dictates the terms, don't look away. The first law starts now. 1. Master your morning. The alarm clock is the first battle of the day, and even the master of the Roman Empire struggled to win it. Marcus Aurelius, despite his absolute power, often found himself pinned to his mattress by the same heavy reluctance we feel today. He didn't have a magical motivation, he had a mental framework. He reminded himself that his purpose wasn't to stay warm under the covers, but to fulfill his duty to the world. To master your morning is to recognize that your comfort is often the enemy of your character. When you linger in bed, you aren't just resting, you are retreating from your potential. By adopting the Stoic mindset of rising to the work of a human being, you transform a mundane chore into a deliberate act of discipline. This isn't about productivity hacks or complex routines. It's about the raw, immediate choice to step into the world and meet your responsibilities with a ready mind. 2. The Dichotomy of Control. This is the golden rule of Stoicism. Epictetus taught that the most important task in life is simply this: to draw a line. On one side, place the things you control, your thoughts, your intentions, and your actions. On the other side, place everything else: the weather, the economy, the past, and other people's opinions. Psychologically, anxiety is almost always the result of trying to control the uncontrollable side of that line. When you stop bleeding energy into things that aren't your business, you unlock a level of focus that most people can't even imagine. Here's why this works. Once you stop fighting the wind, you can finally start setting your sails. If it's not in your control, it's not worth your peace. 3. Memento Mori. The clock is ticking toward an appointment you cannot cancel, and every second that passes is a piece of your life you will never get back. This is the chilling yet electrifying core of Memento Mori. While most people recoil from the thought of their own end, the Stoic leans into it, using the finitude of existence as a high-octane fuel for a truly vibrant life. It is the ultimate filter for the noise of modern living. When you internalize the fact that your stay here is temporary, the trivialities that once consumed your energy, petty office politics, the sting of a stranger's comment, or the hypnotic pull of meaningless scrolling, suddenly lose their power. You realize that to waste time is to waste the very substance of your soul. This practice isn't about morbid obsession. It is about radical presence. It forces a brutal honesty. If this were your final day, would you spend it in a state of anxiety or anger? By keeping your mortality in view, you stop drifting through a someday that may never arrive and start saying a definitive yes to the people, projects, and thoughts that actually matter. You could leave life right now. Let that reality dictate your next move. 4. Amor fati. The most powerful alchemist in the world isn't a wizard from a story. It is the person who can turn a catastrophe into a triumph. Through the sheer force of amor fati, to love your fate is the ultimate psychological superpower, moving beyond mere tolerance into a state of active, joyous acceptance. Most people spend their lives at war with reality. exhausting their spirits by wishing things were different. But the Stoic understands that every event, no matter how jagged or painful, is the exact wood needed to feed their inner fire. Imagine your character as a massive roaring bonfire. When you are a small flickering flame, a single setback, a rainy day, a harsh critique, or a missed opportunity acts like a bucket of water that extinguishes your momentum. However, when you cultivate a soul that is a massive bonfire, those same obstacles are transformed. The water doesn't drown the fire. It is flash-boiled into steam, and the heat actually intensifies. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How can I use this?" Every betrayal becomes a lesson in forgiveness. Every failure becomes a masterclass in resilience. You don't just endure the path. You love the path because the obstacles are the path. The fire doesn't complain about the quality of the wood. It simply consumes it and grows brighter. 5. Speak less, listen more. In a world addicted to the noise of self-promotion, silence is the ultimate position of absolute power. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, famously reminded us that nature gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a specific ratio. We should listen twice as much as we speak. When you are the loudest person in the room, you are constantly exporting your internal state, essentially leaking energy and revealing your hand to everyone around you. By choosing silence, you stop being a broadcaster and start becoming a high-resolution observer. When you speak less, your words naturally gain a gravity that chatterboxes can never achieve. People begin to lean in when you finally open your mouth, because they know what follows is deliberate, not desperate. This restraint creates a critical buffer, the space to think before you react, which is the fundamental boundary between a wise leader and a fool. While others are busy shouting for validation, you are gathering data, noticing subtext, and identifying the gaps in their logic. Most people mistake quietness for weakness, but the reality is that the most dangerous person to underestimate is the one who sees everything and says only what is necessary. Let your results provide the soundtrack to your life. Your words are a finite, precious resource. Stop wasting them on people who aren't listening. 6. Choose not to be harmed. The greatest prison in the world isn't made of stone and iron. It is constructed from the opinions and actions of other people. Marcus Aurelius offered a radical escape hatch from this mental confinement. Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. This isn't about ignoring reality. It is about reclaiming your sovereignty over your own emotional state. We often hand over the remote control of our happiness to strangers, critics, and even the weather, allowing external events to dictate whether we have a good or bad day. To practice this is to realize that an insult only has power if you provide the hook for it to snag on. If someone calls you a name and you become angry, you have essentially agreed with them that their opinion matters more than your own peace. The Stoic builds an inner citadel, a mental fortress, where external chaos cannot penetrate without permission. You cannot control what people say, but you have absolute 100% control over the narrative you tell yourself about it. When you stop labeling every inconvenience as a catastrophe or every criticism as an attack, the harm simply evaporates. You become unshakable, not because life is easy, but because you have decided that nothing outside of your character has the authority to break you. 7. Voluntary hardship. The modern world is a velvet trap of hypercomfort that slowly erodes the human spirit. We live in an era of climate-controlled rooms, instant caloric gratification, and a digital dopamine drip that never ends. While this sounds like a dream, it is actually a psychological nightmare. It makes us fragile, soft, and perpetually anxious about the slightest inconvenience. Voluntary hardship is the Stoics' preemptive strike against this decay. It is the practice of choosing the difficult path when the easy one is available, ensuring that your happiness is never a hostage to your luxuries. When you intentionally take a freezing shower, fast for a day, or opt to walk in the rain instead of calling a ride, you are performing a stress test on your soul. You are proving to your subconscious mind that your needs are actually just preferences. This creates a profound sense of freedom. If you know you can be content while hungry, cold, or tired, then the world loses its power to scare you. You stop fearing the winter because you have already survived it by choice. Comfort is a cage that keeps your potential locked away. Deliberate struggle is the key that opens the door. By doing hard things on purpose, you build an ironclad resilience that makes you unshakable when life eventually forces hardship upon you. 8. Be strict with yourself. Most alpha mindsets crumble because they are built on a foundation of hypocrisy. They demand perfection from others, while coddling their own weaknesses. The Stoic flips this dynamic entirely, creating a life of internal discipline and external grace. This is the art of being a warrior to yourself and a diplomat to the world. You must hold your own character to an absolute, uncompromising standard, while viewing the rest of humanity through a lens of radical compassion. When you encounter rudeness, selfishness, or ignorance, you should treat it as a predictable weather pattern rather than a personal affront. Expect people to be human. Expect them to be flawed. The moment you allow someone else's lack of character to dictate your emotional state, you have surrendered your sovereignty to them. You are the only person on this planet you are truly responsible for fixing. By shifting your focus inward, you eliminate 90% of daily frustrations. You stop wasting energy trying to correct the world and start ensuring that your own inner citadel remains unshakable. This doesn't mean you are a doormat. It means you are so secure in your own discipline that the chaos of others cannot move you. Hold yourself to the highest possible standard of excellence, but give the world the grace it so desperately lacks. 9. Review your day. The human mind is a master of self-deception, capable of rebranding 40 years of repeated mistakes as experience. To break this cycle, the Stoic transforms their bedroom into a laboratory and their conscience into a scientist. Reviewing your day is the practice of the mental audit, a ritual championed by Seneca to ensure that no day passes without a deliberate contribution to one's character. Most people live on a sophisticated autopilot, drifting through habits they never chose and reacting to triggers they don't understand. By the time they reach old age, they haven't lived 1,000 different days. They've lived the same day 1,000 times. Every night, before the lights go out, you must stand trial before yourself. Ask the hard questions. What bad habit did I break today? Where did I lose my temper? What did I do better than yesterday? This isn't about self-flagellation or wallowing in guilt. It is about data collection. If you don't analyze the performance of your soul, you have no roadmap for improvement. When you identify exactly where you faltered, perhaps a moment of vanity or a lapse in discipline, you strip that failure of its power to repeat itself. You wake up the next morning not just with a hope to be better, but with a strategic plan to correct specific errors. An unexamined life is a life lived in a fog. A reviewed life is a life lived with a razor-sharp edge. 10. Live according to nature, the final law. We have reached the law that binds them all together. To a Stoic, living according to nature means living according to human nature. And human nature is defined by two things: our ability to think rationally and our need to live socially. This means you weren't born to just consume and survive. You were born to contribute, to be useful, and to act with reason. When you stop chasing happiness and start chasing virtue, a strange thing happens. You actually become happy. This is the law that gives meaning to all the others. Without this, the previous rules are just productivity hacks. With this, they are a path to a legendary life. You weren't born to be comfortable, you were born to be useful. We've covered the 10 rules that have the power to rebuild your life from the ground up. You've moved from the frustration of being a leaf in the wind to the realization that you can be the mountain. You are someone who values self-discipline. You are someone who seeks wisdom. You are someone who is building a life that can withstand any storm. Don't try to master all 10 of these today. Just pick one. Pick the one that felt like a punch in the gut when you heard it. That's the one you need the most. Which of these 10 rules is your biggest challenge right now? Is it mastering your morning, or is it learning to let go of what you can't control? Share your answer in the comments. We are a community of people who refuse to live on autopilot. If you're ready to take your life to the next level, hit the like button and subscribe. The journey to an unbreakable mind continues in the next video. See you there.